delicious, invigorating.
Folks at home, how you doing tonight? Welcome to Ike Live. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let me tell you something. We have a monster of a show. I'm talking about freaking Godzilla, breathing fire, smoke, flames, sparks, the whole nine. We have a monster show for you tonight. Listen to me. Here it goes. Are you ready for this? Rick Clunn, the legend, recent elite winner on the St. John's, is going to join us in just a minute.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for the sound effects. I think we're ready. I see the thumbs up from Brian the Carpenter. And joining us live via phone with an echo, it's okay, recent winner of the Bass Elite event on St. John's and the biggest legend in the sport of fishing, Mr. Rick Clunn, everybody.
Hello, Ike.
Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Pete.
Hey, Rick.
Pete there, too? Okay.
How you doing tonight, Rick?
Well, we're doing good. Me and my family, Sage and River and Melissa, we all headed to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, over by Beaver Lake, and we're kind of hanging out this weekend. You're the only person who knows where I'm at.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I know that this is still a special time for you. We talked on the phone a couple days ago, and we talked about winning in the modern age, in the social media age. And you said how different it is because of the media blast you're getting and everybody leaning on you for calls and interviews. Talk a little bit about that, Rick.
Well, yeah, it was, this was my 15th BASS victory, but I've never experienced a victory with this much attention ever, even close, nothing even close. I mean, you know how we can drive across the country and occasionally somebody in a non-fishing setting will recognize you, even us dragging these wrap boats around. But this one, I swear, all the way from Florida back through Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee and Mississippi, every stop I made, it was a truck driver or somebody would come up and say, "Hey, I saw your deal on this weekend. I saw your win at St. John's River."
Yeah.
That's not counting the phone and the emails and the Facebook and it's all been very, very positive, but also very overwhelming.
Wow, that's amazing. Now let me ask you this: does this win now, number 15, today in the social media craze, does it feel any different than some of your early victories?
Yeah, a lot different than my early victories. My early victories, the only people there were the local high school band and my family. So, and then weeks and weeks later, they would come out in some type of newspaper form or maybe a television show a month or two later, So
yeah.
The immediacy of this and how current it is to everybody is completely different.
Wow, that's amazing. The other thing I want to jump on right away is we were talking about my win on the Delaware a couple years ago, and I was joking to you how emotional I still am from that. And, one of the similarities that I drew, and I want you to go into it a little bit, is you really dedicated this win to your family. You had Melissa and River there with you, and I know it was important for you to win in front of your family, in front of River. Talk a little bit about that, because when I won on the Delaware River in front of all my kids, it was very similar. For Drew and Riley to see me win as teenagers was very emotional for me, and it was important. Talk a little bit about that, would you, Rick?
Yeah, the thing I guess maybe we as fishermen don't even realize because we're doing it is that what we do is very, very strange in the context of modern society and what most kids look at their father as having jobs. And I can go back to my daughters early in my career where my youngest daughter got my lap one time after I'd been gone to a tournament. She sat there and finally she looked up at me and said, "Dad, when are you going to get a real job in a store?" and basically what she was saying was she didn't know what I did. When I'm home, I'm just kind of hanging around, taking them to school, but I don't have a job like the other dads do that go off every day and come back, at night. And yet, when I do go do my job, most of the time, unfortunately, they're not around to witness it. And so, like you said, this was really, really neat because, that but River and Melissa got there just in time for me to weigh in on that third day when I had the 31 pounds.
Yeah.
And then to be able to stay in. And actually, they hear from friends all the time. Your dad's a fishing legend, your dad's this, your dad's that, to the point they get sick of it.
Yeah.
But because to them, I'm not this fishing legend. I'm Rick Clunn dad.
Yeah.
And so, but all of a sudden now they do get to see what everybody else is talking about, and then that there is a some truth to all this what other people are saying, and actually that there's one of my favorite lines from the movie where Out My Brother Where Art Thou, where that his daughters come up to him and they said, well, you're not bona fide. And as early steps in my career, when you told people you're a fisherman, it wasn't like being a football player or basketball player. No, you weren't bona fide. You didn't have a job.
Right.
You were playing hooky from school or work or whatever.
Right.
So this kind of makes you feel, that they understand a little bit more really what you're doing.
Yeah.
When you ask them to go to bed on time, did they listen to you now? That you're the legend?
No, of course not. I'm dead. They'll forget that tournament probably within just a few weeks. The first time I chew them out or something.
Now, I want to jump into something else real quick, Rick. We pose a question on this show to all our viewers about what impressed them the most about your win, and about 75% of them said this. And it's interesting because my Uncle Don said the same thing. My Uncle Don was so excited when you won, Rick. He called me on my phone and he was like almost in tears. But you said something which was, never let yourself believe that your best moments are behind you. I don't know if you knew this, but you inspired so many people with that win and that statement. And I'm talking about, 40, 50, 60-year-old adults. You inspired them. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, it's amazing to me that a lot of times, we're talking to young kids. Justin Lucas wins last year. We get him on the phone, and he's inspiring all these young kids. But you've inspired a huge adult population to do great things. Can you wrap your hands around that, or is that not something you think about?
No, I can, because really, human nature, unfortunately, we have the tendency. We all go through, at least hopefully most of us in life, go through a peak period where we're at our highest point. And hopefully that lasts for a while, maybe 10, 15, 20 years. But especially when you get older and you kind of come out of that peak period. And I'm using myself as an example in fishing, that I had a 10, 15 year of dominance. And then you come out of that, and then something in your human psyche wrongfully thinks, well, that's behind me now. And but fortunately, a couple of years ago at Falcon, I caught on day 2 the biggest fly fish limit of my life, and I've been fishing 40 years.
Yeah.
And then on day 3, I beat it with another 34 pounds that day, 32 the day before, and I beat it then, and it just kind of turned on the light bulb in my head. Look, maybe I can't maintain the peak I was at, but there's still great moments to be experienced if we'll just go out there and engage life, aggressively. And that's true at all levels. I mean, that's true with, with our family, our children, our jobs, our recreation, whatever. And so it really became, I understand that, I've got probably the biggest fan base out there, the baby boomers.
Yeah.
Baby boomers are a huge group of people, and so, but that's and I repeated that intentionally because I had experienced it myself and was guilty of myself of maybe thinking that all your greatest moments were in the past, and they're not.
Yeah,
wow.
That's amazing because for me, I take that at heart because I think a lot of times when you achieve something, somewhere deep down inside, maybe you're not trying as hard. But I want to win. I'm 18 years into this, and I want to win again. And that's very inspiring to see that.
That was a huge win, Rick. And this is Pete. And man, I watched every moment of that, and I just couldn't turn off. I watched every second of Bassmaster Live. I watched every fish they let us watch you catch. I'm looking forward to watching the show. It was amazing, and congratulations. I'm still amazed by it. But you talked about the 30-pound bags you caught at Falcon. You caught a 31-pound stringer in a tournament where nobody even came close to that.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to be amazing, and it almost unexplainable. I mean, how'd that come together for you?
Well, we don't have time to go through all that. I mean, because I honestly wasn't expecting it. And here's one of the elements, and like, you know, I've always felt all too often as anglers and being very competitive, we fight it too much. We try to make it happen instead of letting it naturally unfold. And this was a good example of that. My best area on the second day, Brent Chapman showed up on. I left it and I came back to it and he was there. So he done it honestly. It was intended to fish. And that's where I caught one of my big fish the first 2 days. And he showed up there, and so, you know, on the third day we kind of raced back to it, and anyway we got there and Brent was doing a mixture of sight fishing and worm fishing, and anyway I was throwing that chatterbait type with swim bait on it, and he was catching a dog out of 2-pounders. And anyway, I just said, you know, it was a small confined area. So, well, I'm going to leave him go to in my mind, I'm going to leave him go to my second best place and get a limit, and then I'll come back and we'll just share this area where the big fish were. Well, that's where I caught where I thought the little fish were. I caught the 31 pounds when the weather all of a sudden changed. And so, you know, again, it was just one of those things that, and going with the flow is so critical, the natural flow, because I could have easily just got there and tried to say, man, you know, it sucks because we're having to share this area now and blah, blah, blah. But really, him being there is why I ended up on that spot at the right window of time. And you and I all know that to catch fish like that, you've got to be in the right spot at exactly the right time and doing exactly the right thing. And all those things came together.
Real quick, Rick, I know you've got to go. We're gonna keep you for 5 more minutes. We have a few of our fans messaging in with questions, and we've got one here that's kind of comical, and I want to ask you. And Bob writes in, do you think KVD now feels compelled to fish until his late 60s after your win?
I don't, you know, you'd have to ask KVD that. I'm going to be on him all year, though. I'm going to say, hey, Kevin, do not miss the Classic, because I've been kind of the bummer, and I don't want to see us go head to head in Classics to just motivate each other to win, you know, the fifth one. But I haven't showed up lately, so he's had it on his own. So I'm going to get on him. Kevin, don't let me down. Don't let me down. You got to be there. You know? And but Kevin did come up to me and go through that, you know, because he knew what had happened. He said it was a perfect day, wasn't it? And I said, yep. You know, it's one of those days you can't completely explain. That every move you make, everything you do is exactly what you should have done.
It's amazing. And I'd like to take a survey, and I really honestly wonder, Pete, how many current pros were inspired to fish. And Rick, before you got on the air, I told a story that I was slightly nervous to have you on the show tonight because when I was a kid, you were a big influence for me and why I wanted to do this for a living. So I want to congratulate you on your win, but I want to thank you for being a great inspiration for a lot of anglers. It's very, very tremendous, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, yeah, well, it's an honor, really, that, you know, you can have that effect and touch people that you'll never even know about.
That's awesome. Well, Rick, thank you. Congratulations again. Thank you for joining us. And please tell Melissa and the family we said thank you for carving out some time for us for the show. And have a great dinner and have a great night.
And
with
congratulations again, Rick. Amazing win. Congrats, buddy.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Zach.
Rick Clunn, everybody.
What a deal.
Wow.
Hot, hearty, delicious.